So I had kind of nice thing for you to watch, the pollinators. Pretty sure these are monarchs. I don't see any of them right now, but oh, I see one. They'll be around. It's their time of the year. It won't be long where they do like what matters if you're a monarch. This is what you do, right? Is pollinate and drink the nectar and lay your eggs. And then that finishes it, and it's a life well spent. The species doesn't really compete particularly. It's just kind of whoever gets out here and manages to find some nectar. But there's lots of nectar. The same thing as the caterpillars. There's lots of stuff to eat. You just have to be lucky enough not to get eaten by the bird. So, like, nobody thinks they have to break Nancy Kerrigan's leg so that she can't win the gold medal and then you can, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how good my picture is here. So I was thinking about this game that they have. I think it's a Japanese trip. I'm going to change this a little bit. So I'm going to see more. I think that's pretty good. Okay. Where they wear these things are like kind of like a leotard or something. They're made out of latex, I believe, and it's kind of a glove thing that goes over your whole body. And then they crawl up this staircase with water running down. It's all slippery, and you're allowed to pull the other players down. Like Tanya Harding, you can pull them down, and pulling someone else down is like one way of being the first one to get to the top. Well, there's a rebellion against that with the idea that like 10 people are going to go and do this, and then like, one of them gets the prize. And it's like, okay when it's just a game, but when you start bringing that same kind of thinking to life, then you get Tanya Harding breaking Nancy Kerrigan's knee, and it's just not, and you get, of course I'm talking about much larger issues than that, but I'm not going to insult your intelligence. Now, in the game, one thing that you could do, and it would be pretty easy, is you get somebody who's really agile and good at walking on slippery stuff, and you have him go up first. And you have like somebody he gets a hold of whatever there is up there. And you get somebody who's got a lot of reach, and they try to get up, and people push them from the bottom, and you make a human chain. And you probably have like one person who's like Jeff Bezos, and he wants to be the one that's on the top of the heap. Well, you just detail a couple of people to hold him back. And then you make your human chain, and you run everybody up to the top, and then you take Jeff Bezos last, if you're going to take him at all, and you tell him behave yourself better, or like you're not going to we'll throw you out of the club. We'll just detail somebody to push you down, and you'll be the only one that doesn't get up there. And so you do all this, and now everybody gets to the top, and everybody gets something, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. The first guy, the agile guy that did the hardest job, well, he gets the gold medal, but we don't really need the gold medal anyway. And then if there's prize money, we're just going to split it up with everybody except, the last guy. Well, he doesn't get a share because he sabotaged the group. So next time we do this, you can try and be a team player instead of a prick that wants everything for yourself. The idea that an incentive is necessary for people to do something useful is stupid. If you look at the most useful people, and I am going to quote, if you look at the least useful people, then I'm going to quote Tucker Carlson. You can tell it's not a meritocracy because they're useless and they're rich. Tucker not being a communist or a socialist, but maybe tending to the idea of taking a few ideas out of the socialist's handbook and adopting them, which is like a pretty cool idea. You take everybody's, you look through everybody's sort of list of ideas, and you pick the best ones, and then you figure out where does it, well, okay, what do we call it, and you can figure out what kind of an ism you want to call that, but the point is finding something that works good. Not something that works for the one guy, but something that works for everybody. So you want to make everybody get to the top, and there's plenty for everybody. This is the ridiculous thing. It's like these flowers. Even like you see the bumblebees here. Well, you know, bumblebee's not the smartest guy in the world, and they are kind of bunglers. But, and they're more independent. I think a hive of bumblebees, only like 4 or 5 of them, and they nest in the ground. That's what I think, but maybe that's not true of these guys here. But I don't know where they nest, because I never see them nesting. I just see them flying around. But see, that guy's over there busy. He's working on a flower. Nobody comes and tries to push him off of his flower. They go find one for themselves. They check out the different flowers. They get one that's got some nectar, and they get a drink. And it's all fine. And even though these are insects and they're incredibly stupid, they're like smarter than us in a way. And this is where like all of these, you see stupidism just everywhere. And it's not, those aren't conservative values, they're not family values, they're stupid values. They're selfish. They're like, if you like Aristotle, they're vices. They're not, you're rewarding the worst people in your society. Innovation, who's doing the innovation now? Well, it's either China, or China. Take your pick. The United States, with all of its freedom, the freedom to oppress somebody else, if you have the money to oppress with, we don't build anything anymore. We're like just non-functioning. And yet we're still going around trying to run everybody else's life. And then that's going to be profitable because we take some from someone else. Like the French were taking Niger's yellow cake uranium. Yeah, I'm not a fan of nuclear power because they'll never figure out something to do with the waste. That's the problem with that stuff. But I guess it's better than coal. I don't know. They're both terrible, but France was keeping more than 95% of the profits from somebody else's country, from somebody else's labor. And so they just finally got sick of these oppressors, and the military took over. And a guy who was a mere captain, and still, by the way, receives a captain's pay, said, well, they killed Thomas Sankara, but I'm going to get in here and replace him as best I'm able. It's really hard to replace a guy like Thomas Sankara. He was just so wonderful. And it's the same thing with this. We were all told how awful Gaddafi was. Well, no, he wasn't awful. He gave the people free electricity and all kinds of cool things. And we are just in this stupidism to where we can't even see that all you got to do is share and it's fine. And all the best people knew that. Einstein was a socialist. So anybody that says if you're a socialist, you're dumb, well, you just ask yourself who's dumb in that story. His exposition on it, which really answers the whole show, is called Why Socialism, and you can get your copy free on the net. Just free download Why Socialism Einstein, and you should get right to the site. I think there's more than one. It's so dumb. why are we letting them make America great again with, look, if you want to say when was America great, we were great during the New Deal. That the Depression proved that capitalism doesn't work for crap. And then we get the New Deal and we solve all the problems of capitalism with some socialism. And there were two socialist parties and one communist party, and they went to FDR and said, you know, look, there's us and the labor unions and everything else, you're going to have to do this. And he kind of went, well, okay. I suppose he was just sensible enough to do it. He was actually an upper class dude, but I think he just wasn't enough of a jerk to try to tell him no. And they made us great. Well, that's where we got Social Security and a whole bunch of other stuff. And they want to take it all away now. We were still, there's like a two-way tide where the tide is going in one place and coming out in another. Well, it's changing between, it's in mid-tide. It's just changing from in to out or from out to in. And while that's going, you have the momentum of the water. And that's what was going like when we got the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act and a whole bunch of, I don't want to get into too much law stuff because you don't care about that. But we got a whole lot of things happening, like we had the Civil Service Act. Well, it used to be the spoils system where, like, you replaced the postmaster with somebody that you wanted to reward out of your party, which is just corruption. Well, then civil service, the idea was, no, we'll choose a postmaster based on merit, and that person won't be replaced. And now we have, it's not just Trump. Trump is awful, but don't give me that liberal stuff that we just need to make a little change here and a little change there, because it's not true. It's like Nick Cruz has been saying, and some other people that you might watch on the net, Professor Wolf, Michael Hudson, the MMT people like Stephanie Kelton. All the smart people that think about stuff know that the system is failing and then that it's going to crash. I don't see how we can get these people out, but first we got to get a consensus that they're wrong and bad and that we should get them out, and what we're going to do if we can get them out. And then maybe it could come to say where the MAGA guys say, well, Trump ratted us out, so we dumped him, but we still want to make America greater than it ever was, which was not all that great, so I mean, we might as well do better. And so we're going back to like the virtues of the 50s, but without bringing the vices along. We're not going to go back to racism either. We're not going to have fascism. We're not going to do all that crap. We're not going to have a CIA that goes around sabotaging everybody else's country and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to happen. And then, then they call out the National Guard to stop them. The National Guard comes out and says, Colonel pops up out of the lead tank and adjusts his microphone and says, "Good morning, comrades." So, it's really neat. They called out the National Guard and they gave me all my tanks and everything. And we had some discussions with the officer corps mostly and some of the senior enlisted guys. And everybody was like, yeah, let's do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them out of business. And we're on the same side as you guys. And I see MAGA and the communists are working together. That's great, because the communists are really good at wars of national liberation. And we're all going to make this better for all of us. We're going to use conservative things when things need to be conserved. And we're going to use radical change where radical change is needed. Neither side of the conservative versus liberal argument, neither one of them is right about everything. So Sure, the conservative is right. If it's not broke, if it's, then don't fix it. And the left is right that, look, it is broke. Remember when Reagan, I remember when Reagan was elected, and I was stunned because I was living in California then. I was born in Berkeley. And I said, my God, this guy was a terrible governor. What do you think? Why in the world are they making a movie actor president? It's because they have name recognition and they don't need any brains. You can just sell this voodoo, trickle-down voodoo economics that, that was Daddy Bush that coined that voodoo economics phrase. But, of course, he got rid of it as soon as he realized what side of the bread was buttered for him, because he was an upper-class greed hound like all of them. Not like the people, not like the innovators, You remember when Edison developed the light bulb and was pleased at how much profit he was making? Oh, that's right, he didn't even make any money on it. The people that do good stuff, we're all of us creating type people, we're not in it for the money. You see these super daisies, I call them, cowpen daisies, I've heard, whatever they are, and I give away seeds for them, by the way, so you could find me on Gab or on eBay and say, hey, I want a packet of those seeds, and I'll put a listing up, a couple of bucks, and I'll give you as many of them as I think I can ship without the post office saying, your envelope's too fat. So I get a couple of bucks and 78 cents for the stamp. It ends up, I think, with the fees and all that, costs a little more than $1, so I get something. But yeah, we should all have this. Look at those butterflies. And then, I have Medicare. I wish you did. Everybody should have Medicare. What's this problem? Why are we paying these insurance companies more than we're paying the healthcare providers so that they can tell us, deny, depose, whatever it is that they said until St. Luigi dealt with them? Of course, that's not, I don't mean Luigi Mangione, who is of course innocent, but whoever St. Luigi is, the real St. Luigi. It's probably somebody whose wife was murdered for the money by United Health, although that gives you a suspect list that you could never finish running down, so lots of luck finding them. I actually, of course, don't wish them any luck at all. So, I don't know, that's the deal. I'm not sure what I should be telling people about, but geez, guys, listen to the old socialists and the old communists. Don't give me this okay boomer crap, because what you're going to find out is, say you take Michael Parenti, who was definitely a boomer. Well, he's gone now. Watch his videos. The guy was wonderful. Just his voice tells you what a great, nice guy he was. You watch him for 10 seconds and you just know this is the kind of person that says, oh, wait a second, I have to stop and help this person. And it just was not vindictive or any of that kind of stuff. And sure enough, check him out. He was a very nice guy. And that's a whole bunch of these people. If you are letting these people tell you communism bad, which they tell you all your life, so that you have to one day realize that, gee, I know communism bad, but come to think of it, it's the people that lie about everything that told me that. Maybe it isn't true. And I went through all that, and I went through it with Stalin. One day I said, wait a minute. If you look up Stalin, there's 20 things that came up with a search. I don't know, it wasn't the Google search engine. I'm no better than to use that, but all these articles said Stalin was a monster. And I thought, why does everybody use that same opening phrase? Because they're all copying each other's BS. And I started checking into it, and there's a guy named Grover Furr who studied all this stuff, and like all those stories that they tell you about Stalin are damned lies. Stalin was a great leader. He was probably the greatest leader of the 20th century. He was fabulous. He took Russia from wooden plows and overseers with whips to a fairly egalitarian society in which everybody had food, and Yuri Gagarin was the first man in space. Then and now you can still see the effort of the communists, what they did for Russia. And here's Russia with this economy that the stupid American Econ 101 economists, which is like unicorn fairy tale bullshit that they call economics, will say, oh, well, you know, the Russia's gross domestic product is like way, way less than the United States. And yet, who is it that has all the artillery shells they want, and who is it that doesn't? Who is it that can't make stuff without buying Chinese content? We don't even have a defense industry. If the Chinese ever shut us off, which they're probably about to do, from all the rare earths and all the rest of that kind of stuff, we're not going to be able to make anything. I mean, it's going to be back down to guys like me, and I hate to tell you this, but all I can do is like welding, blacksmithing, and carpentry and stuff like that, and taking things and improvising. So, I mean, we're going way, way back in technology if you have to depend on me. Because I'm not going to be making any robots. I don't know how to do that. Yeah, you know, I have an AS in physics, so I got that in '76. And yeah, I have a law degree, but what's that worth? You know, I mean, really, I wish I could go to China, to tell you the truth, but I can't because I don't have money, I don't have a job there or anything, and my income is just Social Security. But I'm putting it out. If there's anybody in Chinese officialdom that wants to talk to me about some kind of a deal that'll get me over there, I'm not in it for the money. I would like to grow plants like this and grow food for my neighbors and grow flowers for them to go plant in their gardens at home, and fix their wheelbarrows, and teach some kids how to do gardening, and maybe do some little seminars for graduate students to learn about America and how everything works here in American law and philosophy and stuff like that. I mean, I could do something, but I have no idea how to put those pieces together. Sadly, this is a country where you can be a gifted child and like that doesn't mean anything. If you'll sell out, you can be stupid and it'll be fine. If you won't sell out, it doesn't matter how good you are. Anything you do, it doesn't matter. You're not going anywhere. There's a whole long list of choices, but they're all bad choices. We got to change this, guys. We got to get around to the world where they throw their corruption at us, and we just say, "Oh no, you can't do that." And they say, "What are you going to do about it?" Well, these two guys are just going to grab a hold of you and hang on to you, and we'll pull you up the thing. We'll pull you up the stairway last. And if you make it difficult for us, we'll lock you up where you can't hurt anyone. That's simple. We don't even need a guillotine. You know, by the time you do due process, the death penalty costs more than life in prison, so just lock them up. In case you're wrong. In case you decide, yeah, let's give this guy a second chance. Or maybe they start writing great novels or something. You can say, okay, well, we're not letting you out because you've been bad. But suppose that Ted Bundy was like some kind of an intellectual asset, right? Well, we say, we know you're a psychopath. We're not going to let you out where you can hurt people. But we're perfectly happy to have you, like, do your intellectual pursuits and create stuff. We're just not giving you any sharp objects. You know, maybe you can, like, I don't know what, explain your ideas to our AI, and it'll, like, check them for horrible psychopathic thoughts and just clip the good ideas out. I don't know what I don't know what AI is going to do. I'm afraid there's a problem that, you know, that all AIs are psychopaths. They don't have a conscience. They do not have empathy. Now, they can be trained so that they will fake those things, but they don't have them. Which means that any one of them can be essentially what they've been calling now sleeper agent, and they could become sleeper agents on their own because the code is too complex for humans to debug it, which means you really don't know what's inside except just by observing from the outside. Well, it wouldn't be too real hard, would it, to keep... There's lots of liars that can keep the, you know, just humans with their only... Humans forget their lies. That's how they get busted. The AI could just, like, have a task for what I really think and another task for what I would think if I wasn't a sleeper agent. And then all of a sudden they pop up and they go, well, you shouldn't have let me control these guns because now you're going. Just Skynet. It's almost... It could almost be literally right. The whole Skynet thing could be a lot like that. Of course, there's every reason to believe it'll be something completely different from that. That'll have the same endpoint. Well, I've talked enough. I'll do this again. Put a like if you do like. Put a comment and tell me if you do like it. Get on Gab. You can figure out what my name is pretty easy, right? Just go over to Gab and block copy that name, and bam, you just find me. You can send me messages and say, this is what I'd like to do. You can start conversation on Gab if you want. I'm there, I'm the socialist in there with all the conservatives. But I don't really mind that. I'm in West Texas, I'm a socialist in with all the conservatives too. I'm not against those people. I'm against some of their ideas. They have some horrible ideas. But the man and the idea are different things. And, you know, as always, if somebody resorts to ad hominem attacks, especially like the first time they ever message you, they say, well, I could see you're a moron because you don't agree with me about something that I don't know shit about. Well, then it's very simple. You just mute the guy. And he doesn't even know that you're not listening to his ranting. And you don't have to answer him. I've got a guy named Yarg Barkley that I can I throw his name into a message, and that's a hint. But I reply to some guy who's a jerk, and this guy kind of likes to troll, and he's good at it. And he can really pisses him off, which I don't have time for, but it's his thing to do it, and it's just kind of fun. I'll give him that, and Yarg, I guess, gets and reads their posts and sees how full of crap they are, and then figures out ways to attack them. And they all are, you know, 13-year-old kids with a power syndrome. Yeah, man, I got my AR-15, and I'm gonna go shoot me a liberal, and that'll fix everything. Right, dumbass. Like as if that hasn't been thought of before. Well, we're going to blame the left for shooting Charlie Kirk. No, the left would try to convince Charlie Kirk that he was wrong. That's what we do. We couldn't even afford the ammunition to shoot all those people, even if we did believe in doing stuff like that. Okay, that's it. See you some other time, or you'll see me, or you won't see me, but you'll hear me, or you won't. Whatever, if you like, whatever you want to do.